Hey guys, today it's all about canning food because the garden, wow, there's so much. I have squash, I have tomatoes, I have zucchinis, I have cucumbers, there are peppers, so there are a lot of vegetables and my freezer is not really big enough. And I'm running on solar, so who knows what is going to happen in winter, so I prefer to can all the veggies. So I'm doing ratatouille or any kind of mixture of vegetables to have them available in winter. And I wanted to show you the canning process I do, because for me it was kind of difficult to figure out how to do it. If you watch different videos on YouTube, everybody gives you different advice. So I found my way now with this, how I do it, with really basic tools. I get good results. The jars are vacuum sealed and they hold for years, so let me show you how I do it.
Cajueiro e maracujá, e lá no alto a seringueira com apuro na beira contemplando.
Okay, first of all, for the whole canning process, you need everything to be very, very clean, or even better, sterilized, okay? As much as you can. So I already cleaned, but it's always good to just check that everything is as clean as possible. Then, very important, you need cozy socks, like my ones. Yeah, maybe now I should clean again. No, so yeah, just make sure that everything is really clean. All your countertops, the space where you are going to work. Then you need to sterilize the jars you are going to use. I'm doing that in this really large pot. You can also do it in the oven. The important thing is that the jars are like 20 minutes in boiling water. Well, maybe 20 minutes is a little bit too much, but I prefer to do it a little bit more than maybe necessary. Then you get all your tools. I use this. You can buy really fancy tools to move your hot jars. I just do it with these barbecue tongs. And then you will need something to fill whatever you want to conserve in your jars, to preserve in your jars. So what I did, instead of buying fancy stuff, I had an extra one of those and I just cut it the size more or less of the opening of my jars. So that's it. And I also put a clean clothes on my countertop, because now I'm going to take the jars out of the pot. They have been in there already for maybe 15 minutes, and this is a clean clothes, and I'm going to get the jars out now. Be really careful because they are very, very, very hot. And they should be hot, because then all the bacteria, everything which might be in there, is dead now. I'm just using jars from other stuff I had before, so actually most of them, of the ones I'm using, are honey jars. It's good, like a good advice is that all your jars have the same size, or at least for the batch you are doing. It would be good if the jars are in the same size, because then everything needs the same time for preserving, and they will fit nicely in the pot later on, like the heights of the pot, the height of the jars and the pot. I will show you what I mean in a second. Okay, and you also have to sterilize the lids of the jars, but not like 20 minutes in boiling water. If not, only with some really, really hot water, but don't boil them too long in it. So what I'm doing, I'm just taking hot water from sterilizing the jars, and I put it on the lids. and then I let them sit for a little bit. Yeah, so if you have the special tools, then it's a little bit easier to remove them, but anything will do. Just make sure that your tools are also very, very clean. Good. These are all the jars I'm going to need for the veggies I already prepared here. Keep the hot water in the big pot because you will need it later to put the filled jars in there to preserve everything. So just keep it for later. And have your lids in hot water so they are getting sterilized too. Good. Now my veggies. Woo! Ratatouille for the whole winter. The food you fill into the jars has to be hot too, okay? You can't have, so for example, I prepared the ratatouille in the morning and now I fill the jars in the afternoon, so I just heated it up again. It has to be really hot. Good. Let's go then. So, take your jar, remember it's hot too. Everything has to be clean. You washed your hands before, obviously, okay? And now I'm filling the jars. You can basically put anything in there. So today I made like a sweet sour sauce for it. For when I feel like having a little bit like an Asian dish. You can put the veggies you want. The other day I already did a lot and I put cauliflower also. So whatever you fancy and whatever you have to preserve, because in the end it's the stuff you have in the garden, no, that you need to preserve. Now you fill the jars up to the top, but you leave like 2 fingers under the lid. You leave free with air, okay? And it's quite good if every solid ingredient is covered by the liquid ingredient. So let me show you what I mean. So you see, I left like 1-2 fingers, no? Of the lid, and all the solid ingredients are covered by the liquid ingredient. And it's very important also that the edge is clean. Later on, when I'm done with filling them all, I will go around with a paper towel and clean the edges. Now basically you fill each of your jar. The good thing about this canning method is that it will last for a couple of years at least if you store them in a cold and dark place. I mean, my off-grid electrical systems with solar panels and a windmill works really well. It hasn't failed me yet, but hey, who knows, you know? So I was actually considering to get a second freezer when I saw the harvest of this year, but then I was like, yeah, let's do the work and let's do the canning process. But obviously freezing the stuff is much less time consuming, okay? But yeah, I'm just trying to enjoy the process also. and all this nice smell I'm getting here is amazing. And it's food already, it's done. No, it's cooked, it's prepared. Maybe then in winter I just open a jar, prepare some potatoes and some meat, or you could even eat this as it is, as a soup, or make a stew or whatever. So maybe it's more work now, but then in the moment you open a jar, you barely have work anymore. And if you freeze the stuff, then when you take it out of the freezer, you still have to prepare it somehow. So yeah, although it's a little bit a pain in the ass, I know that then in winter I will appreciate it a lot. So good. Okay. Now I have filled my jars. I'm just getting the last bit out of the pot. And with time you will get to know how many jars hold the content of your pot, okay? Like in the beginning I was just in case sterilizing one jar more, but now I already know when this pot is really full, then I need 8 of these former honey jars to hold the content of the pot. Good. Now the jars are full, and we are going to make sure that the edge is really, really clean, because you need that the lid makes good contact with the edge, and that there are no rests, no food. If not, the sealing, the vacuum might be endangered, no? And we want that the vacuum is in the jars and that it stays there for years. Okay, now I have cleaned all my edges, and I'm going to get the lids now. Remember, they were sitting here in the hot water, so they are sterilized now too. I can put these hot water back in the water. Back in the big pot. And now you take your hot lid, be careful, put the lids on the jars, try to not touch the lid from the inside. If you get all the canning tools, then they will come with a magnet to get the lid and a special tool, so you won't be touching anything, but hey, it also works like that, okay? So at some point I was even using the pliers from the workshop, you know, that also works. Just make sure that they are clean before you use them. So okay, you put the lids on, and now you also screw them on. They don't have to be very, very tight, okay? Because later what will really close the jar is the vacuum that will appear when the jar cools down, actually. Okay, and now I'm going to put the full jars back into the pot, but what I do, I put a clean cotton cloth on the bottom of the pot, because if not, when the water is boiling inside the pot, then the jars start moving, and then the glass in contact with the metal, and not so nice. So if you put a clean cotton, it has to be 100% cotton, okay, no polyester and all that plastic shit. then the jars are, they're like more comfy. They have a blanket in the pot. And don't worry, the towel will be okay. Yeah, it's no problem. You give it an extra clean actually. Okay, so now you put the jars in there standing, please. And the water in the pot has to cover the jars at least to 3/4. That's it. So take care, obviously the level of the water will rise when you put your jars in there. So with experience, as more often as you do this, it's easier it will get, I promise. Then yeah, you will already know the quantity of water you need. And if not, you just remove a little bit of hot water, or you add a little bit of cold water if you need more. Okay, as you can see, the water goes below the lid, okay? But it would be good that the jar is covered, at least 1/3 of the jar is covered in water. So that's it. Now you put the lid on again and reheat it. So you bring the water to a boil, and once it is boiling, it depends on the ingredients you are canning, but in this case it's not meat, it's veggies. So you leave it like for 20-30 minutes in the boiling water, okay? Don't do a like huge boiling that the jars are dancing around in there. No, but just it has to be at least at 90 degrees, okay? You can also get a special canning pot where you can program the temperature and the time and all the stuff. But hey, I live in a tiny house. I can't have so many appliances, and actually I don't want them either, because with this pot I can do so many different stuff. I don't need more. Okay, let's go. So the water doesn't have to be boiling like crazy while you have your full jars in there, but something like that, okay? Because all this steam and the hot water is preserving the content now. Yeah, a little bit more like that. But not really crazy bubbles, okay? So the jars were in the pot now for 25 minutes, boiling. And what I do now, I just turned it off. I will take the lid off and leave them in there to cool down a little bit. I don't know if you can appreciate it, but now the lids on the jars are like turned outside because it's really hot in there, okay? And when they are cooling down, the lid should go inside. Then it makes the vacuum, and then yeah, the food is really preserved. So now I leave them in there, and when I can touch them and take them safely out of there, I will cover them with a towel, just leave them outside and let them cool down by themselves. Then you can write on them what is in there and store them in a dark and cool place. If you like this video, I really hope it was helpful. Please consider to subscribe to my channel and to like the video, maybe even leave a comment. Maybe you do something different in your canning process and you can give me some more tips, advice, hacks. That would be awesome. For the rest, I wish you a wonderful day. Keep it real, keep it healthy, and keep it peaceful, internally and externally. See you soon, guys.
Eu quero morar numa casinha feita à mão, uma floresta onde eu possa plantar o que eu quiser e andar